You gotta introduce yourself, what you do, who you work for. You're here to promote condom distribution at Roosevelt, promoting condoms for the prevention of sexually transmitted infections and HIV, not pregnancy prevention, okay? It's because it's school policy. These condoms are supposed to be given out for STI prevention, HIV prevention, okay? You're gonna present PPL, Planned Parenthood Los Angeles information, which is the services that we offer. They're confidential and that they can qualify for free services and where we're located. So I just want to open it up to the people who are actually presenting this morning. If you guys want to share your experiences doing the presentations.
I thought it was like easy. Probably like some kids were just like laughing, like at the beginning, but after it's like, I don't know, second time around it goes by a lot like easier, and I don't know, it wasn't difficult.
It was easy. Like,
yeah.
It's true what she said. Like, some didn't take it seriously, like they were laughing, but then some were actually like, oh, cool, can I have a business card? Or what are you gonna do here in lunch? Oh, we're gonna be here outreaching. You can go if you have any questions. And they're like, oh, can we have a pen? And they're like, oh, go in lunch. We'll have free pens. Yeah.
Herman Rodriguez and Carla Valdez are affiliated with Planned Parenthood Los Angeles. They are heading up a pilot sex education program at Roosevelt High School called the Peer Advocate Program.
And when we're talking about sex education, it's more than just talking about their reproductive system, but it's talking about the teen as a whole and encouraging teens and empowering teens to take a role in educating themselves and in educating their peers so that teens themselves become the educators and they're empowered to help other teens make healthy choices for themselves.
When we're coming in, both myself and Carla, and doing presentation on school, we don't know who's sexually active or not, who's in a relationship or not, who's, in terms of, having a boyfriend or girlfriend. But once we actually work with students, they know who's having sex, they know who's going out with who, they know who's breaking up or starting a new relationship. So they're able to really cater their messages and really deliver the messages to the appropriate people that need to hear them.
I believe that it's kind of useful for them because sometimes they don't like to go to adults and ask them questions because they believe they might say something to their parents or anybody else.
Going to our friends, it wasn't hard at all because within friends, we already have conversations about sex. We already have conversations about everything we are talking about now.
So in our school, since they know that we're involved in this program, if they find it much easier to ask us the questions, any type of questions they have, maybe we might not have the answers to, we get them here and we go back to them. That way they find it useful and they start telling their friends, like, oh, I know a person that knows this information. You could trust them, so you could go and ask them. And after that, the word starts spreading out and everybody else knows.
I think for me, the biggest surprise for most people is when we told them that there's actually 17 different people that they can get condoms from, because they were like, whoa, 17 people. Mm-hmm. So giving them the room numbers was really helpful. We want to make sure that, again, even though people might seem like they're not paying attention or they're not listening, hopefully we want to be able to see the reaction when they're going out there and getting condoms. And hopefully by the time you guys get back to school, we'll be able to redo this again with the other homerooms.
The young ladies have gone to homerooms to give information about the resources that are available at their school and then also here. The teachers, the administrators, other staff at the school have really come to rely on us and depend on us for the services that we offer. And they kept asking us, what else can you do? We really want you to be here. And when this idea came up, they were welcoming of it and they encouraged it and have been extremely supportive of the ideas and our participation at the school. And it's been a real partnership with them.
At the heart of the Planned Parenthood program are the peer advocates, each of whom receives extensive training before beginning their work with fellow students.
The training, when we first began, they gave us these 2 big manuals, and once you see them, you're overwhelmed. It's like, oh, we have to literally read it, learn it, memorize it, and it's overwhelming. You had to study to pass that test, or otherwise you're not gonna get the job. And oh my God, it was just stressful too at the same time. But once you know it and you talk about it enough, things stick in your mind.
The initial training regimen continues in the form of ongoing discussion groups that prepare the peer advocates for the kinds of questions and comments they're most likely to encounter.
Why would someone decide to have intercourse and have sex?
They find they're together and They get to play.
Just going with nature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peer pressure.
What about peer pressure?
Peer pressure, their partner. Oh, baby, I love you. Right. Tell me that after we do it. No, I'm just playing.
And what about, going back to being forced, what about when your boyfriend says, you do it or I don't want to be with you no more? Is that a form of being forced?
Peer pressure
That's
too.
pressure.
There's pressure, and then that can be rape because you do not want to do it. That's his choice. He wants you to do it. So it has to be both of you have to agree on it.
What about setting the right type of environment for you to get drunk or have a couple of beers and you're not going in with that intention and that person taking advantage of you? Is that forced?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is because you're not consenting it. If you say yes, well, yeah, but if you don't say anything.
So any other reason why someone would choose to have intercourse?
Get laid.
Huh?
To get laid.
To tell other friends.
To tell a friend.
Yeah.
To get pregnant, like, and keep the guy. Like, some girls are really, like, think they're in
They're
No.
desperate about the guy that they're willing to risk.
So when it comes to sex or intercourse, what decision can you make?
Yes or no?
Yes, intercourse,
No intercourse.
or no intercourse, which is called.
Abstinence.
Even though we finished the exam, training still continues because we learn more. We learn more as our meetings go on. We learn new things about every meeting, and just training goes on, and it's just training to be ready when we go out in the field and outreach to our friends or outreach to anyone else that might come up with questions.
What's the next decision that needs to be made if you decide?
Are you gonna protection or no protection? Basing it on condom.
But just condoms?
You have to check any barrier, any any barrier.
And what are they?
Female condom, male condom.
What is it? What is it?
Latex.
What is it? Female,
What did you say?
The latex barrier.
Latex barrier.
female condom. What else?
While many believe that schools are excellent settings in which to provide information about sexuality, others contend that this kind of subject matter has no place in public schools and is better addressed by families at home.
Then at puberty, certain glands begin to work, and our bodies begin to change.
But where are these glands? Yeah. And what's puberty?
Puberty,
Sexuality education in schools has been controversial since it started in probably the early 60s. For a long time, we were debating whether we should teach sexuality education in school. And actually, a conservative organization in around 1963 put out a publication called Is the Little Red Schoolhouse the Proper Place to Teach Raw Sex? I think that's a good example of how we started debating whether school was appropriate place for sexuality education at all. Many people arguing that only families could teach this.
However, if we look at it, sexuality is really not being taught in the homes, and often what's learned on the streets or in the homes is either inappropriate or not factual. What we know is that a lot of youth learn about sexuality out on the street, and a lot of the information they learn is inaccurate.
But even when communities decide that it is appropriate to teach sex education in school, there is often bitter disagreement over the content of the instruction.
I think some people worry that teens aren't going to make good decisions about sexuality. And instead of giving them all of the information and the critical thinking skills that they need to make decisions, the argument is we just need to be directive and tell them not to do it. And the problem is that there's no evidence that that's going to work. There has been no studies that show that teens who go through an abstinence-only until marriage program are less likely to have sexual intercourse. And some studies that actually show they're more likely to have sexual intercourse and possibly more likely not to use condoms and contraception when they do become sexually active.
Yeah, moving beyond abstinence-only sexuality education, I think that SIECUS, the Sexuality Information Education Council of the United States, founded by Mary Calderon, actually has advocated for comprehensive sexuality education in which abstinence is a viable option. So abstinence is taught along with a lot of other kinds of things in terms of sexual decision-making, sexual health, sexual prejudice, contraception, sexually transmitted diseases, that it's a more balanced approach to sexuality. It's more comprehensive, that adequately and faithfully reflects the complexity of sexuality. That's what we need to be doing in sexuality education in this country.
Right now, the government spends over $100 million each year on abstinence-only until marriage programs. And while this is not a government endorsement of any kind of sexuality education, what it does is sound like and feel like to communities across the country a government stamp of approval.
What remains so interesting to me is the fact that all the large polls, all the large research studies that have been done suggest that the majority of parents in this country want comprehensive sexuality education for their children, for their kids, and they want it done in the schools.
But not all American communities provide comprehensive sexuality education in their classrooms. Some contend this is due to long-standing, deep-seated fears and negative attitudes about sexuality.
The U.S. Society on Sexuality is probably a bit schizophrenic. If we want to take a look, it comes out of the Judeo-Christian ethic, and that goes all the way back to the Roman times. During that period, Christianity was more anti-sexual than sexual. And so we saw early Christianity having a very negative view of sexuality. In fact, equating sexuality with sin.
It's very interesting that sex is all around us, and at the same time, when we talk about it, sometimes we get embarrassed. And there's definitely a number of taboos that still exist in our society in talking about sexuality. And I think that really it's because people haven't ever been taught to be comfortable with their sexuality.
One aspect of sexuality that has proved to be especially uncomfortable and upsetting for many concerns alternative forms of sexual orientation.
The data suggests that while there has been some change over time, still 60% of Americans, at least the last time we got polling data on that in 1998, still find homosexual relations or sexual relationships between two people to be almost always wrong. That's the way the question is asked. In 1970, it was about 75% of people, so there has been some positive change, but still, more than half of Americans consider this behavior deviant and wrong. And so what we call heterosexism is really promoted and supported.
The topic of alternative sexuality is even more controversial because of disagreements about how one's sexual orientation comes about.
When researchers have been looking at homosexuality, we've gone through an entire series of positions and theories toward it. We can go all the way back to some of the early psychoanalysts in this country who saw it as a dominant mother and a weak father. That theory was pretty much discarded. Then the question of, well, is it something we're born with, or is it something that happens to us from the environment? Now, some of the things that have come up on the nature side have been the work of people like Simon LeVay, who did the studies of the hypothalamus of gay men and comparing gay men to straight men to women, and found that the hypothalamus in gay men was half the size of the hypothalamus in straight men. We also have the gene study that found a marker on a gene that may be biologically influenced.
There have continued to be debates about what causes somebody to be gay, lesbian, or bisexual. And I think we need to be very careful about that kind of language, what causes or what determines somebody's sexuality. Because often behind that question is what went wrong. Often we don't ask people, why are they heterosexual? But we're very quick to try to find out the etiology or the cause of why somebody's gay, lesbian, bisexual. And I think that we need to ask ourselves the question, in the service of what will the answer be? Why are we asking the question?
One reason might be to sort out the legal questions concerning discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation.
Federal law does not include sexual orientation. Race was argued to be inborn, unchanging, and therefore, why should you discriminate on the basis of race? So the Supreme Court and others, federal, Congress eventually came to that point of agreement where To discriminate on the basis of race and inborn characteristic, it was making invidious distinctions, and so therefore, it's illegal. Many people argue that sexual orientation should not be put under that framework because the right wing argues that sexual orientation, particularly a gay or lesbian identity, is a chosen identity. It's a behavioral, it's a preference, it's a lifestyle, rather than something inborn.
Discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, like other forms of prejudice, can play out in any number of ways. One that often affects people financially, and thus gets a good deal of attention, is discrimination in the workplace.
The forms of discrimination typically revolve around things like pay, but even before that, whether or not you even get hired in a job. So hiring, and then in an academic environment, of course, you're dealing with tenure and promotion. Also, of course, the pay issue, but also benefits. Domestic partner benefits have become a big issue. Plus, there's also exclusion from social networks, who goes out for a beer after work, that kind of thing.
Attitudes in the United States about what's considered normal or acceptable sexual behavior have fluctuated enormously. This is not only true about hot-button issues like sexual orientation, but about practices like infidelity.
If we go back to the original Kinsey studies in 48-53, we see that 50% of men and 25% of women had extramarital sex. Yet when we come up to our best contemporary study, the National Health and Social Life Survey done at the University of Chicago in 1994, we find that now it says 25% of men and 15% of women. Have we gotten more conservative from the 50s to the 90s? Or is this simply a shift of the patterns that exist from time to time? Do we go through cycles?
Regardless of how rates of infidelity change over time, when it does occur, it can wreak havoc in a relationship. Complicating matters still further is ambiguity in some cases about what exactly constitutes infidelity.
Infidelity can be interpreted in a variety of ways, depending on the person. Oftentimes we will hear of what we will call emotional infidelity, where one party in a marriage or committed relationship develops a significant emotional attachment to somebody else. There may not be any touching or kissing or physical intimacy, but still that is seen as a breach of the marital contract. And so for many couples, this is a concern, and generally that is usually something that's easier for more couples to work through. More commonly, when infidelity takes a shape of actually having physical sexual relationships with another person, that is where everyone will agree that that's infidelity, and that's, I think, the most basic definition.
The factors leading to infidelity are often enormously varied and complex.
Most of the time, I would say, in my analysis of it, it's not hot-breathed sex that makes us stray. It's I'm not appreciated where I am. Something's not right in our connection. I mean, people could have a sexual affair, but mostly it's I'm not getting what I want here. I don't feel appreciated, I don't feel emotionally accepted.
It's almost always it's something foundationally in terms of how the couple functioned, in terms of their ability to resolve conflict, their ability to be genuine and honest, their ability to create a safe place for each person to fully be themselves, where they don't have to hide parts of themselves because they're going to be criticized or ridiculed or put down.
We could say that they have extramarital affairs, one, to reaffirm their attractiveness, or that they are needed or wanted, to reaffirm the idea of a self, that they have some degree of empowerment. Some people do it for revenge, to get back at a partner.
Why didn't you tell her?
Whatever the reason for infidelity, the impact is frequently devastating.
There are lots of consequences to sexual infidelity. First and foremost is that if you are in a committed relationship, a marriage, that it's very possible it won't be repairable. Certainly with sexually transmitted diseases, I have seen that become a very real consequence for many couples and a very painful reminder, making it even more difficult to move forward with the relationship.
The impact of sexuality and sexual expression in all its many forms has been enormous throughout human history. But since the early 1980s, that impact in all too many cases has turned terribly dark with the advent and proliferation of the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. And despite the development of powerful new drugs that have proven to be the most effective medical response thus far, the fight against HIV and AIDS is far from over.
One of the biggest challenges in HIV prevention is that there's a false feeling that these new drugs are a cure. So some people are like, well, if I get this, I just take some drugs and I'm cured. So that's a thought that's out there. Another one is that people say, well, you know, if I get this disease, I can take these drugs and it won't change my life. So they don't think they're a cure, but they don't think taking the drugs is any big deal. And so I think that has caused people to become more complacent about being sexually responsible. Unfortunately, once they're HIV positive and they realize it's a big deal, there's nothing we can do to take that back.
The fact of the matter is that despite significant progress, there is still no cure, and AIDS continues to be a often fatal disease. It is also continues to be true that the kind of resources devoted to battling the domestic AIDS epidemic here in the United States is woefully inadequate and helps foster an environment in which 40,000 new HIV infections occur each year here in the U.S.
What makes this situation even more daunting is the disproportionate number of young people who contract HIV.
The CDC now reports that 1 out of 4 new HIV infections in the United States occur in people under the age of 25. And I think what this points to is the fact that there is not a comprehensive, aggressive effort to reach out to the new generation of young people coming of age and becoming sexually active, to reach out to these young people and really make sure that they have the information that they need to keep themselves safe.
We're realists about that young kids are having sex, and the vast majority of these infections at that age are driven by sex rather than injection drug use. But this is a very difficult and, again, touchy subject for people. Most of these infections are among gay youth. So it's about kids coming out, young gay men coming out. It's oftentimes they're infected within some of their first sexual encounters. But it gets wrapped up into all of our discussions about what is age-appropriate sexual health and prevention messages. And do we even talk to kids about sex? Do we talk about abstinence only? Do we talk about abstinence and being faithful and condoms? Where do they get those messages? How do they get those messages? Which messages are appropriate?
Accessing public school kids with AIDS prevention information or with invitations to participate in events like the AIDS Walk. It's a challenging thing to do. There are a number of barriers to such access. Some of those barriers are reasonable and logical. Some of them are not. Where we've had our greatest success is really by individual teachers, counselors, parents, and students sort of taking it upon themselves to take a leadership role within the schools to bring AIDS information or information about participating in the AIDS Walk to the forefront on a school-by-school basis.
Or sometimes they didn't know the consequences that came along with it, like when they did it without protection. Now they choose to do it with protection because now they know the consequences they can face. Sometimes they don't know if that show up. Yeah. Most things that are dormant, they have to show symptoms in order to have it, but that's not the truth. Most of the STIs don't show symptoms.
Here's the first opportunity for you guys to change the thinking of what people are used to thinking. If you feel sick, if something's wrong, you go to the doctor. Here's a change. The formula has to be different. Dramatically and drastically different. You're asking them to go to the clinic, go to get tested, just to make sure that nothing's wrong. That's different than what people are used to hearing, okay? They're used to hearing, I'm sick, something's broken, something hurts, something aches, let me go to the doctor now. You need to change that way of thinking.
It's an opportunity for you to provide information, but also to challenge a little bit, challenge the thinking that Herman was just talking about, how we've been taught a certain way to think about these things and about health and about wellness. Those are also opportunities for you to challenge the normal thinking that everybody has. Okay, because now you guys are really well-informed individuals on these issues, and you guys can really make a big difference with people.
Our Families Ourselves is an 18-part series about marriages and families. For information on this program and accompanying materials, call 1-800-576-2988 or visit us online at www.intelecom.org.